The Sahara Desert is the largest sandy desert in the world. Its area is more than 8,600,000 square kilometers. This means that more than 13 countries the size of France could fit within the Sahara. For most people, this place is nothing more than a lifeless territory with endless sands. But for scientists, the Sahara is a true treasure trove of scientific and historical discoveries. In this video, I invite you to get acquainted with the most amazing discoveries in the Sahara and other deserts. Enjoy watching. In 2008, during excavations in the Sahara Desert, in what is now Niger, archaeologists from the University of Chicago, led by Paul Sereno, made an astonishing discovery. This find introduced researchers to an unusual burial ritual practiced by people who lived in this region thousands of years ago. Amid the sands, scientists uncovered an ancient cemetery containing around 200 human burials. Among them, they found an extraordinary grave. It contained the remains of a woman and two small children. The woman was tightly embracing her children, and beneath their bodies lay a sort of floral mat. Archaeologists had never seen anything like this before, making the discovery a true sensation. The remains date back to the Bronze Age, over 5,000 years ago. Scientists tried to determine why this particular woman and her children were buried on flowers, but unfortunately they could not find an answer. However, the unusual position of the deceased led to speculation that she may have been buried alive along with her deceased children. All the remains found in this cemetery belong to two different groups of people: the Kiphians, who were hunter-gatherers, and the Tenarians, who were settled farmers. The necropolis was located near what may have been a lake at the time, indicating that more than 5,000 years ago, this part of the Sahara was a habitable and thriving region. In the Sahara Desert, as in other parts of our planet, excavations are constantly being carried out. Most often, scientists discover various artifacts there, while dinosaur remains are a rare find for this desert. For this reason, every such discovery becomes highly significant. In 2018, scientists from Egypt's Mansoura University made a truly sensational discovery. They managed to find not just the remains of a dinosaur, but the remains of a previously unknown species. The skeleton was very well preserved. Scientists were amazed by the condition of the skull fragments, lower jaw, neck, vertebrae, ribs, humerus, and limbs. This allowed them to get a complete understanding of the dinosaur's structure. During the study of the find, scientists concluded that they had discovered a new species of titanosaurs, giant herbivorous dinosaurs with long necks. This species was named Mansourasaurus shahinai. Representatives of this species lived in Africa about 94.66 million years ago. Previously, it was believed that dinosaurs could not migrate between Europe and Africa, but this discovery proved otherwise. Thanks to this finding, paleontologists not only gained a better understanding of dinosaur evolution and migration, but also filled in gaps in the history of the late Cretaceous period in Africa. One of the study's authors, Eric Gorskak, even called these remains the Holy Grail for paleontologists. In 2010, during the construction of a new road in Chile's Atacama Desert, workers discovered a highly unusual find for a desert: numerous animal remains. When archaeologists arrived at the site, they determined that the bones belonged to marine creatures. The discovery included the remains of nearly 40 prehistoric whales, as well as fragments of skeletons of the ancestors of modern dolphins, sea lions, and even ancient relatives of marlins. This discovery astonished paleontologists and raised many questions. How did the remains of marine creatures end up in the desert, and why were they all in one place? All the remains were found inside a hill, which scientists dubbed the Whale Graveyard. Experts suggest that an ancient sea once covered this area. This explains why the remains were found in the desert. Most likely, the mass death of animals was caused by poisoning from toxic algae that thrived in the ancient waters. Over time, different species of animals perished in this region, leading to the massive accumulation of bones. This discovery once again proves that deserts in ancient times looked completely different from how we see them today. Rock paintings are a unique and invaluable source of information about the lives of ancient people. Moreover, petroglyphs also tell us about the natural features and climate changes in different regions. This is why studying ancient rock art in the Sahara is an important task for scientists. One of the most famous sites for rock paintings is the Tassili Niger Plateau, located in the southeastern part of Algeria in the Sahara Desert. Archaeologists have discovered over 15,000 petroglyphs at this site. The oldest of them date back to the 6th millennium BCE. This plateau boasts a wide variety of rock paintings. They depict hunting and warfare scenes, as well as individual figures of animals and humans. Since petroglyphs were created over several millennia, they have allowed scientists to trace the region's evolution from a flourishing savanna to a barren desert. Some petroglyphs depict hippos, elephants, and rhinoceroses. These animals no longer inhabit the Sahara, but several thousand years ago, the desert provided an optimal climate for their survival. As the climate changed and pastoral tribes developed in the 4th millennium BCE, rock paintings also evolved. Elephants and giraffes disappeared from the images, replaced by depictions of domesticated livestock. 2,000 years later, the inhabitants of the Sahara began carving images of war chariots and armed warriors onto the rocks. These people likely belonged to the Garamantes, a fierce tribe described by Herodotus. The latest rock carvings found on the Tassili Niger Plateau date back to the 2nd century CE. By that time, the Sahara had already turned into an arid desert, but some nomads continued to live there. They depicted scenes from their lives on the rocks, with camels becoming the central animals in these images, as they had become the primary means of transportation. Thanks to these geoglyphs, scientists have been able to gather invaluable information about the lives of the ancient inhabitants of the Sahara and the climate of the region. It is no surprise that rock paintings are considered an important part of Africa's cultural heritage. In 2008, in the southern Namib desert, employees of the diamond mining company De Beers accidentally made an incredible discovery. They found an ancient ship. Later, the vessel was identified as the Portuguese trading ship Bom Jesus. The history of this ship's disappearance began on March 7, 1533, when it set sail from Lisbon for India. However, it never reached its destination, as it was shipwrecked off the southwest coast of Africa. For nearly 5 centuries, Bom Jesus lay buried under a thick layer of coastal sediments and sand, which allowed it to remain in remarkably preserved condition to this day. The team of archaeologists working on the shipwreck was pleasantly surprised when they found a vast amount of 16th century goods and coins aboard the vessel. Among the discoveries were thousands of Spanish and Portuguese coins, nearly 2,000 copper ingots bearing the symbol of the Fugger Trading House, one of the wealthiest and most influential merchant and banking houses in Germany during the 15th-17th centuries, as well as more than 100 elephant tusks. The total value of the recovered goods is estimated at $13 million USD. Bom Jesus became the oldest and most valuable sunken ship ever found off the coast of Africa. Among the endless sands of deserts, bodies of water are a rare sight. Therefore, when researchers accidentally noticed a lake in the Tunisian desert near the city of Gafsa in 2014, they assumed it was a mirage. However, the scientists decided to verify the location and approached it. As it turned out, they were not mistaken. It was indeed a real body of water. At the time of its discovery, the lake had an area of about 1,000 square meters and a depth of approximately 18 meters. The news of this unusual discovery became a true sensation, and some tourists began traveling through the sands specifically to see the desert lake with their own eyes and even swim in it. However, scientists warned that swimming in this lake could be very dangerous. After analyzing the water samples taken from the lake, experts confirmed their concerns. It turned out that this body of water is located near abandoned phosphate mines. Most likely, the lake was formed from underground sources connected to these mining sites. Sample analysis showed that the water was contaminated with various toxins and potentially radioactive substances. For this reason, scientists warned tourists that this location was not a safe choice for swimming. Despite the lake's contamination and its industrial origin, it continues to astonish with its presence among the vast desert sands. Archaeological discoveries in the Sahara are always diverse, but more often than not, archaeologists uncover various artifacts belonging to ancient civilizations. Among these finds, weapons hold a special place, as they provide invaluable insight into the military practices, culture, and daily lives of the ancient inhabitants of the Sahara. One of the most significant discoveries was a collection of arrows and arrowheads found in the Siwa Oasis. These arrowheads, made of obsidian and bone, date back to around the 5th millennium BCE. Their sharpness and meticulous craftsmanship demonstrate the high skill level of ancient weaponsmiths. It is likely that these arrows were used for both hunting and defense against enemies. Another valuable find was made in the Fezzan region, where archaeologists unearthed fragments of Bronze Age swords and daggers. These weapons, crafted from bronze, indicate that the ancient inhabitants of the Sahara had already begun to develop advanced metalworking techniques. In fact, a vast number of ancient weapons have been found in the Sahara Desert. Each artifact has its own story and provides researchers with deeper knowledge of ancient weaponry and the military conflicts of the past. In ancient times, the climate of the Sahara was optimal for human habitation. People established various settlements, some of which grew into large and prosperous cities. However, as the climate changed, people were forced to abandon their homes and move elsewhere, leaving once thriving cities forgotten beneath layers of sand. Thanks to the efforts of archaeologists, many of these cities have been rediscovered, along with the secrets of ancient civilizations. In reality, the Sahara contains many lost settlements, but here are just a few of them. The city of Timgad, located in eastern Algeria, was founded by the Roman Emperor Trajan in 100 CE. It was originally built as a military camp, but gradually developed into a flourishing center of trade and culture. The city was abandoned in the 7th century after being attacked by the Berbers. Timgad remained buried in the sand until the mid-18th century, when it was accidentally discovered by Scottish explorer James Bruce. Another lost city is Gao, located in present-day Mali. Founded in the 7th century CE, it became the capital of the African state of Songhai in the 11th century. Gao was an important trade hub at the crossroads of caravan routes, but in the 16th century, it was completely destroyed by Moroccan warriors. Most of the lost cities of the Sahara are now listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They serve as rich repositories of history and culture, reminding us that even in the harshest conditions, people built thriving civilizations and left behind a legacy for future generations. The Richat structure, better known as the Eye of the Sahara, is one of the most mysterious natural formations on our planet. This object is located in the Mauritanian part of the Sahara. It is a circular structure with concentric rings measuring about 50 kilometers in diameter. The Eye of the Sahara is so large that it can even be seen from space. It received its name due to its unusual shape, resembling a giant eye. Scientists have known about this amazing object for a long time, yet to this day, they remain puzzled and cannot precisely explain what caused its formation. For a long time, it was believed that the Eye of the Sahara was created by the impact of a giant meteorite. However, after thorough research, it was discovered that the Richat structure has a completely geological origin. The concentric circles are alternating layers of different rock formations, with the oldest one dating back about 600 million years. Recent studies have led scientists to suggest that the structure was originally a hill, which gradually eroded over time due to natural conditions, revealing its circular base. However, this theory has not yet been fully proven. Some people believe that the Eye of the Sahara is a man-made structure, while ufologists are convinced that Richat is actually a kind of symbol indicating that extraterrestrials regularly observe our planet. On April 4, 1943, the B-24D Liberator bomber, known as Lady Be Good, took off from a runway in Libya and headed toward Italy. That day, 9 young pilots were on board, embarking on their first combat mission in an aircraft of this type. Lady Be Good was part of a squadron of 13 bombers. While flying over the Sahara Desert, the planes encountered a severe sandstorm. 9 aircraft were forced to return to base, while the remaining 4, including Lady Be Good, continued the mission. Unfortunately, the crew of this bomber became disoriented and eventually decided to return to base. However, they soon faced a fuel shortage and had to eject. Lady Be Good continued flying for another 26 kilometers before making a soft landing in the desert, breaking in half upon impact. Sadly, the harsh desert conditions prevented the pilots from surviving. Their bodies were only discovered several years after the crash. The bomber itself remained missing for 15 years until 1958, when geologists from the Darcy Oil Company spotted it while flying over the desert in a helicopter. For years, the details of Lady Be Good's disappearance and its crew's fate remained a mystery. However, the discovery of the aircraft and the crew members' diaries helped reconstruct the events of that fateful flight. The diaries described all the errors and the despair of the young pilots caught in the disaster. Interestingly, during the flight, they believed they were flying over the sea rather than the desert, which is why they did not attempt an emergency landing. Among ancient Egyptians, burying chariots and boats alongside the deceased was a common practice. For example, the legendary tomb of King Tutankhamun contained as many as 6 chariots. Other noble families preferred to be buried alongside a mode of transportation, so they would not be left without a means of travel in the afterlife. From time to time, archaeologists discover such burial transport. These finds always prove to be extremely valuable. But the burial boat found in 2016 in the Sahara Desert, in the sands of the Abusir necropolis, was a truly remarkable discovery. This boat looked incredibly majestic. It was 18 meters long, just a few meters shorter than military ships of that time. The vessel was made from high-quality wood, which allowed it to be perfectly preserved to this day. Initially, researchers assumed that the burial boat belonged to a wealthy nobleman, but later they discovered that an ordinary person's body was buried next to it. This discovery raised many questions, particularly how the family of a simple Egyptian could afford to buy an almost military-grade ship or even pay for its transport to the burial site. Unfortunately, the mystery of this ritual boat remains unsolved. In Western Sahara in 2019, archaeologists from the University of East Anglia made a stunning discovery. While studying this part of the desert using satellites, they found hundreds of mysterious stone structures in space images. These objects had various shapes, including circles, rectangles, and crescents. It became clear that researchers had discovered a large man-made complex with a total length of about 630 meters. Now, scientists face the challenge of determining which civilization these structures belong to. Despite thorough research, this remains a mystery, as does the purpose of the complex. Experts suggest that these structures may have been used as monuments on burial mounds. Scientists also noted that the area where the stone structures were found was not always a desert. It was once covered with forests and inhabited by many wild animals. However, which civilizations lived on this land remains unknown. Libyan desert glass is a unique mineral whose origin is still debated by scientists. Libyan desert glass is a glassy nugget with a semi-transparent or fully transparent structure. It has smooth, rounded shapes and can come in various shades, ranging from white to yellow-green, with rare reddish specimens occasionally found. Libyan desert glass has been known for a very long time. Even ancient Egyptian pharaohs admired the beauty of this stone and wore jewelry made from it. Craftsmen used small gemstones to create knives and spear tips for the rulers of Egypt, while larger stones were used for exquisite ornaments. Surprisingly, Libyan desert glass can only be found in one place on the entire planet, in the Western Desert, a section of the Sahara located in present-day Libya and Egypt. This mineral attracts great interest from collectors and researchers due to its mysterious origin and beautiful appearance. Unfortunately, scientists still cannot definitively answer how these enigmatic nuggets appeared in this part of the Sahara. According to the most widely accepted theory, this mineral was formed as a result of a cataclysm that occurred when a giant comet crashed into the area more than 28 million years ago. This theory was supported by Italian researchers who discovered a high concentration of iridium in the crystals, which is uncommon for Earth's rocks. However, this is not the only hypothesis explaining the origin of Libyan desert glass. According to an alternative theory, an atomic explosion caused by an ancient advanced civilization took place in this part of Africa, leading to the formation of these unique stones. The Dead Sea Scrolls, also known as the Qumran manuscripts, are among the most valuable ancient texts that have survived to this day. They hold immense historical, linguistic, and religious significance, as they contain biblical texts, apocrypha, and various other writings in the Qumran language. The Qumran manuscripts date back to between the 3rd and 1st centuries BCE. All this time, the scrolls were lost and forgotten. Most likely, scholars would still be unaware of their existence if not for a chance discovery. In 1946, 2 local shepherds stumbled upon 7 ancient scrolls in the caves of a Qumran. At first, they tried to keep their find a secret, but eventually they decided to sell the scrolls. The manuscripts ended up in the United States, but 3 years later, they were returned to Israel. This led scientists to launch large-scale excavations along the northwestern coast of the country. Researchers carefully examined all the caves, a process that took several years. However, their efforts paid off. In total, more than 900 scrolls were discovered in the caves. Once all the scrolls and their fragments were found, linguists began working to decipher the texts, a process that took several decades. Today, scholars have decoded almost all the manuscripts, revealing some of the most significant early copies of the canonical books of the Old Testament, written before the emergence of Christianity. This made the discovery of the Qumran manuscripts one of the most important archaeological finds of the 20th century. Today, the Sahara is the largest sandy desert on our planet. Its area exceeds 8.5 million square kilometers, which is almost 30% of the entire African continent. This region consists of endless sands and dunes, making it seem as though it has always been this way. However, recent scientific research suggests otherwise. It turns out that thousands of years ago, lush green forests covered the Sahara, boasting a diverse range of wildlife. In 2020, scientists from the University of Copenhagen and NASA conducted a large-scale study of the Sahara Desert, using satellite imagery and artificial intelligence. During their research, they discovered numerous fossilized trees and the bones of various animals. All of this indicated that forests with rich biodiversity once thrived in the Sahara. The most astonishing aspect of this discovery was that the fossilized trees and animal remains were not millions of years old, as one might assume, but only about 6,000 years old. This means that the Sahara became the world's largest sandy desert relatively recently. But what could have led to the disappearance of these forests? Scientists believe that multiple factors contributed to this transformation, with the primary cause being climate change. In 2011, users of the Google Earth service discovered strange objects in the Gobi Desert that resembled giant inscriptions on the sand in an unknown language. Initially, these markings, like most other geoglyphs, were classified as mystical objects that might have been left by extraterrestrial civilizations. However, when news of this sensational discovery reached scientists, they found an explanation for the phenomenon. It turned out that the strange markings in the sand once served as landmarks for spy satellites. These markings helped space devices not only monitor the surrounding area, but also calibrate their cameras. More recently, Google Earth users once again spotted strange objects in a desert. This time in the Sahara, they turned out to be mysterious green circles. These circles were incredibly even and stood out due to lush green grass covering their entire area. Once again, extraterrestrials had nothing to do with it. Scientists explained that these circles were actually irrigation fields. At their center is an artesian well from which a pipe with multiple holes extends. The pipe rotates in a circle, continuously watering the surrounding area. Thanks to this system, the soil transforms from desert land into fertile ground. In Mauritania, near the border with Western Sahara, lies an astonishing natural wonder, the majestic monolith of Ben Amara. Ben Amara is a granite monolith standing at 633 meters tall. It is the second largest monolith in the world and the largest in Africa. Ben Amara is not just an ordinary rock formation. Its history spans several tens of millions of years, during which its granite structure was shaped by various natural forces. Its enormous size and unusual shape make it a recognizable and highly popular landmark in the region. Thousands of tourists from around the world traveling along the route between Nouadhibou and Zouera stop by it to admire its breathtaking beauty. However, reaching this natural wonder requires a 103-kilometer journey from the nearest major city, Atar. According to travelers, though, the effort is well worth it to witness this incredible geological monument in person. In 2013, archaeologists made a stunning discovery in the Libyan part of the Sahara. In a rock shelter, they found 20 human remains dating back to the Stone Age. After studying the find, experts concluded that the bones date from between 8,000 and 4,200 years ago. This suggests that the rock shelter served as a burial site for nearly 4,000 years. Since relatively few remains were found for such an extended period, scientists speculated that the site was used as a family burial ground. Generation after generation, people buried their ancestors in this dump. Between 8,000 and 6,000 years ago, the Wadi Takakori region where the discovery was made was covered with dense vegetation and contained a body of water. These natural conditions allowed the area to be used as a permanent settlement. In addition to the remains, archaeologists discovered rock carvings depicting domesticated livestock. This indicated that the inhabitants of the area practiced animal husbandry. Most likely, people were forced to leave the region after drastic climate changes caused the water source to dry up and the vegetation to disappear forever. Today, this section of the Sahara Desert is completely uninhabitable for humans. you can find anything in the desert, but this recent discovery exceeded all expectations and shocked scientists. In the heart of the Sahara, a group of researchers discovered a submarine. It is hard to believe, as this discovery took place in a desert. Unfortunately, it remains unclear how a submarine could have ended up in this location. For this reason, many theories and speculations have emerged to explain this sensational find. According to one version, the submarine appeared among the sands because someone deliberately transported it to the desert. However, conspiracy theorists believe that this discovery is proof of the existence of an advanced civilization that possessed technologies far ahead of its time. Researchers continue working to solve this mystery, hoping that further excavations and analyses will shed light on this incredible discovery. It is quite possible that we will soon learn exactly how the submarine ended up in the middle of the Sahara. In 1987, researcher Christian Dupuy discovered remarkable rock carvings in the Tinere Desert, part of the Sahara. These petroglyphs depicted 2 giraffes and were named the Dabu giraffes. To this day, they remain the largest known animal carvings in the world. The carvings were etched into a gently sloping, weathered sandstone rock surface. They are estimated to be between 6,000 and 8,000 years old. Their size is truly impressive. The tallest giraffe, from the tip of its ears to the tip of its hind legs, measures nearly 6.4 meters. The petroglyphs depicting the 2 giraffes are part of a vast collection containing over 820 individual rock carvings. Among them, 700 illustrations portray various animals such as buffalo, ostriches, antelopes, lions, camels, rhinoceroses, and others. About 60 carvings depict humans, while another 160 remain undeciphered. However, due to their size, the 2 giraffes stand out as the most striking images in the collection. An interesting feature of these petroglyphs is that from each giraffe's mouth, a carved line extends downward toward a human figure. This characteristic has also been observed in other ancient African depictions of giraffes. Experts believe this may symbolize early attempts by humans to domesticate giraffes. The Dabu's giraffes and other petroglyphs are not only impressive due to their beauty and age, but also offer modern people a glimpse into the art of ancient civilizations. In the Namib Desert, located in southwestern Africa, an unusual phenomenon known as fairy circles can be observed. These are circular patches of land completely devoid of vegetation, surrounded by a ring of dry grass. For a long time, it was believed that fairy circles existed only in the Namib Desert, but in 2014, similar circles were discovered in Western Australia and in 2022 in Africa's Kalahari Desert. The origin of this phenomenon remains one of nature's unsolved mysteries. The Himba people, who inhabit this region, believe that the circles were created by their first ancestor Mukuru and natural deities. However, scientists have proposed several scientific theories to explain the phenomenon. One theory links the formation of the circles to termite activity. These insects, by consuming plant roots, create dead zones, which later develop into fairy circles. Another theory suggests that plants themselves play a role in forming the circles. In an environment with scarce water resources, plants compete for survival. As a result, each plant absorbs all available moisture, leaving a barren area around it. A fascinating feature of the fairy circles is that they can disappear and reappear over time. This has led scientists to speculate that underground water sources or even soil changes caused by microorganisms may be responsible for their formation. Each new study of this phenomenon generates new hypotheses and theories, but to this day, science has yet to determine the true nature of fairy circles. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.